Hey, math fans, welcome to AP Statistics. I'm going to be your host, Mr. Porter. Um, this particular chapter is a great introduction to AP Statistics and, what exactly are statistics. So, this is what I want to talk to you guys about today. This is really what statistics is all about. You have a population of something, anything, whatever you're trying to investigate. But maybe it's a population of students, high school students. Maybe it's a population of whatever. Skittles. I'll be talking about Skittles today. Whatever it is, you're trying to investigate some sort of aspect of that. And you could ask everybody in the population or test everybody in the population, and that would be called a census. Very time consuming, often inaccurate. We're doing a 2020 census right now, and it's near impossible, and I would say impossible, to get a hold of every single person in the United States of America. People are leaving the country, dying, being born every day. It's very hard to get a handle on what's happening with so many people. So instead, what is statistics? Well, it's the study of taking a sample and trying to make an inference about the population. I love this graphic right here. Population versus the sample. Notice how the sample is inside the population. It is a subset of it. Okay, if you want to know something more about Rev students, you wouldn't sample people from RHS. You wouldn't sample all high school students everywhere. You would take a sample of Rev students to figure out what's going on with the population. A sample is a subset of the population. And here's kind of the process here. You collect the data from a sample, and then you make an inference about the population. So what is that word inference? It's such a huge word in this class, okay? So it comes from the word infer, okay? And take a look there what the definition is. We're speculating, we're trying to draw a conclusion, but it's based on reasoning. It's like we don't have the answer, but we're going to take a pretty darn good guess. And I'm going to tell you right now that statistics, the science, has a way of being more accurate than trying to take like a census. Instead, we're going to use samples in this class to try and get more information from the population. So here's the idea. You want to define what the population is. You want to say exactly what you want to measure. You want to take a sample survey and decide how to choose a sample from the population. So what do you think a typical GPA at Rev is? We're looking at, if I wanted to ask you, what's a grade point average? What do you think the grade point average is at Rev? For everybody, a typical one, you're going to have high GPAs, you're going to have low GPAs. But what's a typical one? You would say, some high schools have higher typical GPAs than others. But I really want to know, what about Rev? So the idea is this. I could, and let's pretend we didn't have computers, because obviously I could go down to the registrar's office and they probably have all that on file. But what if I was just simply by asking people what their GPA was? I want to talk about this idea of sampling. I could go into a classroom and just start asking people, what is your GPA? Now, I teach an AP class, and luckily I have you guys right in front of you. Let's pretend we were in the classroom here. It's a very nice classroom, by the way. And you guys start rattling off your GPAs. Some of you guys are like, oh, I'm a 4.0. I'm a 3.7. I'm a 4.3. And then I average that all out and I get 4.125 or something like that. That's probably going to be really high for a typical GPA at Rev. It's going to be way higher than what the truth is, the actual true value of what the typical GPA is at Rev. So the question is, what did I do wrong? I went into an AP classroom and I asked people what their GPAs are, and guess what? A typical student is not in an AP classroom. So I'm doing this the wrong way. And so this particular way is called convenience sampling. It happens all the time. You want to know information right away, and you don't take the time to plan out actually how to get the information from the population. So you just grab a few people that are right in front of you. The problem with this is that it's systematic. Every time I do something like where I'm pulling kids from, like, let's say AP classes and asking them their GPA, I'm always going to get a higher number than what the truth is. Okay, when I get a higher or lower number than what the truth is systematically, not just by random chance, that is called, switch over here, that is called bias. Wow, let's try that again. There we go. And bias is where you systematically, overestimate, underestimate what the actual population is. So, how to sample badly? Well, do exactly that. Do convenience sampling, and you're going to get misinformation. I mean, it's not that it's untruthful information, it's just you are not being representative of your population. You can't just grab people, that are right next to you, or, not, you have to have a plan when you go about trying to sample from a population. So that's known as a convenience sample. Um, Convenience sample, they're underrepresentative of the population, and it shows bias, and we kind of already talked about that. Another thing that happens all the time is voluntary response samples, and the voluntary response samples are quite funny. Like, let's say I set up a table outside the cafeteria. Here's my table. You guys like my drawings? And there I am, and I'm set up this table, and I ask people, what do you think about the cafeteria food? Or, do you like it? Do you not like it? Scale 1 to 10. So it's a survey. I'm asking people to come to the table. I'm not going out and finding them, though. And so the people that come to the table are volunteers. They're volunteers, and they're usually upset, or they could be extremely happy. They have very strong feelings about whatever the topic is. What that's going to do is it's going to skew your results, again, resulting in bias. You're going to have bias from these people that come in, because you're going to collect all this information from people who feel so strongly, and you're going to be like, wow, people really dislike this food, or they really love it. And that's actually not the case, because the people that dropped by the booth were only those people that felt strongly. So we call that voluntary response bias, is really what that's called, and that comes from a voluntary response sample. I like this picture right here. It's Skittles. I don't know if you guys enjoy Skittles, but if I was to take a bag of Skittles, I'd probably get a pretty representative sample if I just pull Skittles out of the bag and wanted to see if the color distribution was, relatively equal in the bag. But as you can see, if they're lined up like this, and I conveniently just grab a certain section, I'm going to leave out the representation of these other Skittles. And I might, if I just pulled, let's say that the Skittles were stacked in the bag where the orange and red were on the top, I might think the entire population of Skittles was just orange and red. Again, this is a systematic under or overestimate of your population, okay? It's not going to be the truth. So in this class, we're going to try and make sure everybody's represented, and we'll always have that in the forefront of our mind as we do this. So how do you avoid bad sampling or convenient sampling and voluntary sampling? Well, you have to have a plan, and that's done through what is called random sampling. And random sampling involves using a chance process to determine, which members or things in your population will get selected. You're going to hear me say this over and over again. The simple random sample is kind of the ideal, and I will refer to it as the SRS. Okay, and the sample size n, which is a variable, it can change. Sample size n is chosen in such a way that these individuals all have an equal chance of being selected. More importantly, they can also have the same equal chance of a combination of these individuals being pulled from the population. And so we'll talk more about that.